Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saif Nadeem, and this is OmarD.
Assalamu alaikum. Our topic is about how did the Muslim Ummah fall and what we can do to fix it. So what happened? How did we get to the now? We believe that Muslims fell when the individuals increasingly became materialistic and disunity was rampant. We have lost our deen and split to different madhabs and sects and calling one another fake Muslims and telling people who is going to hell and etc. This division and materialism made it easy for corrupt countries to make Muslim countries their puppets.
How great was the Muslim Golden Age? The Islamic Golden Age was a period of cultural, economic, and scientific flourishing in the history of Islam, traditionally dated from the 8th century to the 14th century. This period is traditionally understood to have begun during the reign of Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid, which is from 786 to 809, with the inauguration of the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, where scholars from various parts of the world with different cultural backgrounds were mandated to gather and translate all of the world's classical knowledge into the Arabic language.
And from that classical knowledge, we kept increasing and more and more and more. In this golden age of Islam, we introduced all kinds of modern materials, such as cotton, paper, mirrors, street lamps, salt, colored glass, deodorant, kerosene, paper money, surgical instruments, book binding, clocks, soap, and compasses, and much more. So how did we fall in the state we are in today? There are three main points that we will discuss when we answer this question. The Islamic Empire was huge. As all large empires, they fall due to numerous enemies, civil unrest, and inability to change and adapt to circumstances in the new age, and difficulty managing the government due to greed and disunity.
There are two specific time periods we'd like to discuss here: the Islamic Golden Age and its fall during the Abbasid Caliphate, and the Ottoman Empire during World War I and after. The third main point we'll discuss what has happened today and what led up to it and why we are still like this.
The fall of the Islamic Golden Age. As said in slide 4, scholars agree it fell in the Abbasid Caliphate. The reason they fell are important. Some attribute the Mongol invasions. The Mongols were storming Asia and heading west, destroying civilization on the way, looking towards Europe and Middle East. They were a menace, but the Egyptian Mamelukes were able to drive them away and defend the Middle East and Europe alike from the Mongols. The Abbasid Caliphate fell due to these Mongols, and namely the siege of Baghdad, which happened in 1258 AD, as well as the destruction of the House of Wisdom. Some say that Islamic science declined during this time as well, arguing that the Sunni reveal in the 11th and the 12th centuries produced a series of institutional changes which decreased the relative payoff producing scientific works.
Empire in modern times. The Empire of Islam fell after World War I, which was the Ottoman Empire. It united the Muslims, but the individuals in the positions of power became materialistic. The empire, became divided and weak, and this is when the Europeans came in and destroyed us by making the Turks and Arabs turn against one another. Turkey brought in secularist ideas.
Amongst them was Ataturk, who came in the name of nationalism and divided Islam and the countries and divided Islam in the countries and changed the Quran from being recited in Arabic to being recited in Turkish. They placed the Quran in museums and it became a decoration, a symbol. They had it in books so small you couldn't read it. And our evidence for this is in a clip over here, starting from the beginning to 47.
And you can also see this. There are many Muslims today that bring up the Quran in these tiny books and hang it up next to their cars or anything, and they believe it's for protection. and they play music that is haram and everything, and they still think it's for protection. Yet they cannot read it, and they just use it as a decorational symbol, as we said. Unity in madhabs and the similarities between points 1 and 2. The biggest problem the Muslim world is facing today is disunity amongst our peoples, mainly the concept of madhabs and sects.
This happened because materialism led to people being disconnected to their deen. That disconnection to their deen made people stop preferencing Quran and Sunnah. That lack of Quran and Sunnah made them have to rely on the opinions of sheikhs. And the opinions of sheikhs could be confusing or misleading. And that led to even more confusion, separating them, creating madhabs and sects, weakening the Ummah.
Now, I want to share an example of this. During the times of Salah al-Din, when he was fighting against the Crusaders, he did not only have to fight against the Crusaders, he also had to keep from unrest and civil war from happening in the Islamic Empire. He had to fight against the Shia and the multiple madhabs of the Muslims that wanted to fight just because he was Sunni Muslim. And this is just evidence of how divided that the Muslims became back then, and how divided we have become today as well.
That division has made us so weak. We weren't able to stand as one anymore. That madhabs made everything just weaker, not as strong as it could be if we were united under one Quran and the Sunnah.
And lastly, a very important quote said by Abraham Lincoln: "United we stand, divided we fall."
And this is a clear example of this.
Yes.
So how can we fix this issue? We believe to solve this issue, we must educate the Muslims to stick to Quran and Sunnah. As education spreads, there will be no confusion between madhab, sects, is this guy saying what, this guy saying what. No, it will be very clear, Quran and Sunnah. And we will be able to stand up to injustice against fellow Muslims, and would have the ability to stop prejudice against Muslims around the world.
Now, countries like Saudi Arabia have to stop making these lucrative and corrupt deals with foreign and kuffar countries like the United States. And we have to stand up to, we have to stop becoming puppets to countries as the United States, Europe, and most importantly, Russia, who is always leading these presidents that are making matters so much worse and killing innocents and everything.
Soon we will be able to lead technology as we once did in the Islamic Golden Age.
Inshallah, this shall strengthen the Islamic Ummah, spreading the deen and establishing the foundations to unity between all Muslims.
Jazakallah khairan and have a nice day.
We hope that you liked our presentation. Assalamu alaikum.